if you know the history of Cuba and you met the people of Cuba before you met Fernandez, you will be shocked to know that there's no difference between Fernandez 2018 and Fidel 1959.
Hello.
That relationship created by Fidel to create a mentality and a feeling and an honesty and an integrity that make us all, us the Cubans, I include myself, feel that we have a duty towards the whole world. There is no Barbadian, Trinidadian, Haitian, Guyanese, Cuban. There is the world. There is the people of the world. And Fidel, and there's another brother called Almeida, and Che, that combination of people have been able to create between 1959 and the present day a Cuban feeling, a Cuban identity that is hard to understand. Hard to understand. Because we in the Caribbean and most of the rest of the world always think in terms of self. Like, what can I get out of this? What is in this for me? That is never a part of the Cuban mentality. I first went to Cuba back in 1964, and this is now 2018. And the impression from the first time I went to Cuba remains with me. I had a meeting in our first trip with the Minister of Education. At that time, I was a student studying in London. And for some unknown reason, I was invited to Cuba by the Cuban ambassador for London, for England. I didn't know him, he didn't know me. But on arriving in Cuba, I'm realizing from the first day that there was something different about this country. I wasn't seeing white people looking at black people, you know, in the way you see it in Barbados. I wasn't seeing this kind of above you and below you. I wasn't seeing that. And that made me start to think what it is about Cuba that has changed the Caribbean man into something new, something different. What we need to do in the Caribbean, we need not to follow the Cuban model, but to create a model that would make sure that all of the Caribbean people would be given a proper education, given a proper culture. And culture does not just mean walk up dance. It means a feeling within you that your duty and your responsibility is to help look after the world. The whole world, not specifically the world. And out of that discussion with the Cuban ambassador, Cuban minister at the time, it was arranged that I could get any amount of scholarships for the whole of the Caribbean for them to study in Cuba. And we went further in that discussion, told me when I returned to London to continue my studies, that the Cuban ambassador in London would receive a diplomatic pouch from the Cuban government in Havana to deliver to me, so that I would know exactly what Cuba was doing in relation to our discussions on the education. Because the major problem we had in those discussions, 1964, was how we are going to get Caribbean students from the Caribbean to London. The Americans had made sure not only in trying to squeeze the Cubans of food, but to squeeze them into a narrow corner that they would not be able to accept and relate to the rest of the Caribbean people. So therefore, to get to Cuba and write the expedition, the Barbadians and Trinidadians and the rest of the islands would have to go to London. From London, go to Spain, and from Spain, go to Havana. And we are talking about students that have not a cent, not a penny. They can't get a fishing boat and travel to Pelican Island. And then they will try to work out, how can we do it? How can we do it? The second petition that they put forward to me in 1964.
Yes.
1964. As if we can get the Caribbean students to Mexico. Because Mexico still had a relationship with Cuba that the Americans could not break. And then they could move them from Mexico to Cuba. And they even pointed out to me that they had an island called Isla Pines. It's not called Isla View. This was owned by an American multi-billionaire. I was beginning to do that they would then start to use that island as a training ground for not only the Caribbean students, but all of the African country students. To create a connection between us and Barbadians, and Barbadians have a peculiarity that's not the same as the rest of the Caribbean islands. We have a black white situation in Barbados. There's a highly racist situation in this country. If you, night before I went to a function by Richard Stout, and I had to mention to one of the people there, the crowd was about 500-600 people, and they were all black. There's a Barbadian concert to create artists, and all were black. There was no connection between the Barbadian white population and the Barbadian black population. And here I was finding in Cuba, I wasn't seeing that type of thing. It was kind of shocking. I wasn't seeing that kind of racism. Although they have an author from the States that talks about it, but it does not exist. And so, after all of the discussions, I went back up to London and I had meetings with the Cuban ambassador. Sometimes I mustn't say some things I say, but I think historically I have to say. And the second meeting I had with the Cuban ambassador in London, he asked me, what about the guns? And discussions in Cuba dealt with education, people's development, moving our working class up in the ladder. And I did not answer him, but it was a strange question. I ignored it. About 2 weeks after, I went back to the Cuban embassy to find if the diplomatic pouch had come. And when I went upstairs, there was a scrambling all over the Cuban embassy. People were running about. And I saw the first secretary running through an open door, going into that room, close the door. So I left. And the next day, the Times of London, the Guardian, Telegraph, highlight Cuban ambassador defects. And with him he took everything that I had told him. And therefore, by the time I came back down to the Caribbean, I was a non-Caribbean person. I was a Cuban communist. That is part of the historical position. And the Cuban government will forget. It's been never, when I think of Fidel, I think totally different to what I think of other people. There is within that man a gentility and an understanding that he explains in detail what it means, what is the problem. And during that same very trip, I went to 26th of July celebration at Guantanamo, which was right next to the Guantanamo base, which was taken over by the United States in 1959. And during that speech, this is 1960, it was only 5 years after the revolution. And there's still difficulties of American interfering at every aspect. The way they interfered in some cases was shocking. They would use small airplanes to spray the sugarcane to make sure it dies so that the Cuban economy could not move forward. At one time I was shown under a bridge where they set up a hearing system for part of the spying systems. It wasn't easy that Cuba had it. And my brother is a product of that Cuba. He's a product of that Cuba. He's not himself as a secondary Cuban. What I'm saying is part of him. He understands that clearly, and therefore his connection in Barbados is remarkable. It's remarkable in that the Fidel Hussein, my brother, has spread to experience to every aspect of the Barbadian economy, every aspect. From the ministers of the Democratic Labour Party to the ministers of the Barbadian Labour Party to his friends with the Cuban organizations, to everybody that come in contact with him. Explaining, and I think he learned that from listening to Fidel. But Fidel, whenever there's a problem in Cuba, and there are problems all of the time, Fidel will talk 5, 6, 8 hours explaining to the public this is the problem, these are difficulties. And that is especially true in 1991, when Cuba had reached a stage where Fidel even created a concept called the special. That explains to people that all things are rough. We've lost the connection with the Soviet Union. We can't sell the sugar any longer. There's no money coming in. We can't exchange the sugar for gasoline or what we had to exchange it for. And he explained to the Cuban people, and the Cuban people accepted it. There was no fighting against me. There was no underground movement. We got to deal with him. We got to deal with Cuba. We got to get rid of this revolution. It made them stronger and firmer. And that's for the explanation. That is something I think we have to talk a little bit here. You have the ideas, but you have to explain them. You have to put the people in your confidence and explain over and over. So back the 26th of July, 1964, at one time. And Fidel is in the explaining mood. I can't remember what he was explaining at the time. I think he might have been explaining the badness of the American government. So entering at least in 2009, 102, in which Cuban government signed an agreement for America to take over Guantanamo and then put a time frame on it. The time frame. Normally, at least at that level, it goes for 100 years. And then in 1906, they passed a new act called the Platt Amendment, which gave the American government the right to intervene in Cuba militarily whenever they felt like. Whenever they felt like. And therefore, between that period and 1959, they removed Cuban governments as they felt like. But when Fidel was explaining all this to that crowd, and somebody said it was about 1 million people, and it was a lot of people. They then said, explaining the whole problem with Guantanamo, they told the people, but there will come a day, and didn't say another word. 1 million guns went in the air. When the Cuban people say, see, no, the one, and they're ready to fight America right there then. Now, the Cuban peasants with the guns, soldiers with the guns, women with their guns, to fight for what Fidel said was right. And then Fidel has to do the reverse, getting them back now. He has to talk to them in a humane, decent, correct way. No, it's not the right time. No, we cannot win. No, we don't have all the right guns. But there will come a time. And you watch that crowd actually love of Fidel. From a distance, love of Fidel. For telling him this was. For explaining. And my brother lives that. That's a good, nice little sexy food, I think. That relationship has become a connected relationship between the brother and not only public left in Barbados, but the ones that people feel something is good for Cuba. Just the feeling. Not even have a political left thinking or a mentality say is recognized. Just the feeling. And Cuba has given us through Fidel, has given us Biafra. And therefore, from the time we've been here with him, we've had a lot of time with him. We've had a lot of discussions with him. We've got a lot of ideas from him. And although this might not be understood clearly, the present Barbados government owes a lot to Cuba. Owes a lot to Cuba. Not just from the education standpoint, but from discussions and meetings. I can't go any further. Thank you for hearing.